Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Unfiltered with Jason Gaszak. I'm so glad that you're joining me today. I just want to say thank you to all of you last week. We had such a great response on the app and on the texting. It was amazing, and I'd like to see that interaction. So again, today, I just encourage you, pull up the Real Talk Radio app on your smartphone. Go to there, and I always try to communicate every weekend when the show airs back with all of you. Or, again, you can text me at 314-924-4215. That number is 314-924-4215. The other thing I want to say before we get into the show is, I have just finally started building an audience, I feel like, with this radio show. I'm so grateful for all of you that listen and have shared and told other people about the radio show, which means I am looking for some show sponsors. So if you know anybody that would like to advertise on this show that supports the views of my show, Unfiltered, I would love for you to give them my information, for them to reach out to me, and I can advertise their business. Or if they just want to support the show in general, you like what we're doing here, and you want to donate to the cause, we'd be happy to do that. So I want to throw that out there. And then, of course, today I have my son with me as my guest today. We have something very special for you. What's up, Austin?
What's up?
Hope you've been enjoying your day today so far.
Yeah, it's been good.
Ready to be on the show and talk about what we've discussed?
I've been looking forward to it. Yeah,
good.
Sure.
So what we're going to do here in a minute is Austin is kind of going to interview me and ask me some questions. He's getting ready to get married September the 15th, I believe.
Yep.
And he thought, well, why not just ask some questions on air about what he's getting ready to get into from his own father, who has been married 27 years. And I thought, well, that would be really cool to do. Maybe our listeners would like to hear some relational information. You don't obviously have to be getting married to get this information. This is for anybody at any stage in your marriage that I think is going to help you today. So that's what's going to happen here in just a minute. But before we dive into that, I do want to just discuss one thing before we do that, because I want the majority of the show to be about the relationships and marriage and all that good stuff. But just a couple of days ago, I saw a news article come out about that song Jason Aldean did, Try That in a Small Town. As many of you know, we did that song on Sunday morning as our performance piece for our God and Country series. It just happened to be the perfect timing for us to do this song that was kind of controversial. Well, it was very controversial to some people, to end our God and Country series. And so we did that. And, of course, we had some people not understand, hey, that's not a worship song. Why are you doing it? Well, if you don't understand the series that we did, then it probably would be hard for you to understand. But if you know the series, it makes perfect sense.
Sure.
But the article that I saw recently was that Jason Aldean had edited his music video to that song, basically taking out 6 seconds of the song of some clips. So, of course, I go to research. I start looking at the comments, and I immediately see all the negativity about Jason Aldean. I can't believe he caved to the media. Just another example of someone not being strong. I'm no longer going to listen to his music anymore. And just all this negative hate against Jason Aldean for an article that goes on Facebook.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I'm like, wait a minute. Why are the American people so dang fickle to just automatically believe what has been put out on social media or any news article for that matter? Why is it that they just jump on the bandwagon, believing whatever it is without doing any fact checking and figuring out what in the world happened? Is this really true? Because he hasn't come out and said anything in a statement. Nobody has technically until just recently. And so I did more research. I gave it a couple more days. And finally, I believe the truth is finally starting to come out. And I just want to, if you're out there today and you're seeing the same thing I am, which I'm assuming you are, you might be wondering what in the world is going on. Well, supposedly his producer did not get permission to use 2 3-second video clips from a Fox News affiliate in the area of Nashville or Kentucky. I don't remember which one. And it was about the Black Lives Matter movement, BLM. And they basically took their footage and put it in their video. They took Fox News footage and put it in the Jason Aldean video. And the producer did contact the news organization, but they never approved it. And so, of course, when this thing hits viral like it has, guess what? That Fox News affiliate reached out to Jason Aldean's office, and they said, hey, you cannot use that footage. We need you to remove it. And by law, they had to remove it. That is the reason what I'm seeing, what my research has said. TMZ actually is the one that first reported it. Then they came back out and said, hey, we got clarification. It was actually his producer that did not get the full rights from this particular organization.
And now everybody's reporting on it.
Yeah. So it's like everybody just jumps on the bandwagon, man, of just all of a sudden bashing somebody. Let me tell you something. Whoever is listening to my voice right now, can I just give you some very good wisdom? Any time that anybody says anything, or you read something in the paper, or you read it on social media, or you see it on the news, whatever it is, do me a favor and fact check the information first before you start taking sides. It's no different than the Floyd situation. Everybody jumped on the bandwagon, but we didn't get all the information. It's the same with the Michael Brown situation. I mean, I can think of many newscasts that where people, they project a story and people just jump on the bandwagon, believing whatever the story says without doing any research of their own and fact-checking it. And people, listen, this is what gets us in trouble. This is what absolutely gets people in trouble, is they don't fact-check the information. Yep. And Austin, you know, at Roots Church, I tell people, especially during God and Country, I told everybody, I said, listen, I don't want you to take my word for it of what I'm teaching you from the stage. I want you to fact-check me. Everything I'm telling you is things that I have researched and I have found truth in, because most of it is biblical. But then there's probably 20% of it that's not technically biblical information, but it is definitely information about Marxism and the BLM movement and transgenderism and all those different things. And I'm like, fact check me. I dare you to fact check me. I want you to fact check me, because when you fact check me, you are going to find out more things about the situation than what you would have any other time. And you can't just take somebody's word. I think it's great that people trust me. I think it's great that people might trust a news organization. The bottom line is we are imperfect people. And you know what? We could make a mistake by researching the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And so, hey, I just had to rant about that first thing this morning, because I just get so freaking upset at people that just jump on a bandwagon about something and don't even do the research, but they just believe it. It's like 1 minute they love Jason Aldean, all of a sudden something comes out, now they hate Jason Aldean.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute. Can you just not get the correct information first before you do that? Before you spout off on Facebook, or before you spout off doing and saying something about somebody? Do your research, do the work, put in the work to find out the facts first before you bump your gums about the situation.
Well, and reality is, to kind of support what you're talking about, back in the day when it was just a newspaper.
Yeah.
That slowed the speed of information down, because you'd go get it verified,
Right.
You'd take it to your editor, all those things. Now we have self-proclaiming journalists, keyboard warriors, self-proclaiming experts on everything. And so now what we see, I feel like, is a lot of news organizations, they just push out the first thing they get, because it's better to be first than it is to be accurate nowadays.
Yeah.
Which is not true, because then what ends up happening is you put your foot in your mouth and they come out and they say, hey, we have to make this edit. We apologize for this, whatever. And then you look like an idiot.
You lose credibility.
That's the number one thing in journalism and in communication, is you want to always be credible. And you tend to lose credibility when you do that. And the thing that makes it even more difficult is where social media has gone. You've got people that are intentionally clipping things together to make it look like that, to create a false narrative, and then we fall into that trap. I fell into that trap with the incident that happened during Pride Month with the Chosen series. I don't know if you heard about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I immediately felt like I fell into that trap. So anyway, we got to be careful.
Right. I mean, if you didn't know about the Chosen deal, they hire people outside of the organization that don't fully support their views because they're good at what they do. And one of the people had a pride flag on his camera bag, and it was filmed in the background. And all of a sudden now everybody blows up media about Dallas Jenkins, that he
supports
it's
Pride
just
Month.
Like insane. And of course he came out, explained himself, and said, listen, We're not against using people with gifts. If they're gonna create something, they don't necessarily mean they have to agree with our views. They respect us for what we're doing, but that doesn't mean I support it.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway,
Absolutely.
oh my goodness. Well, guess what? We only have about 30 seconds here before we get into the first segment. So again, hey, welcome to Unfiltered, everybody. This is what we do here. We talk about social, political, and biblical topics in an unfiltered perspective from me, a pastor, and I am a pastor out at Roots Church in St. Clair, Missouri. I encourage you to go all my social media pages, follow me on, subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is still being worked on. I mean, hey, it's brand new. I don't have that many subscribers right now, but if, you got to start somewhere.
Yep. Absolutely.
And so that's what I encourage you to do. When we come back, we are going to talk about relationships. We're going to talk about marriage. So I hope you come back and listen because I've got some good word for you straight from the Bible. We'll be back in just a minute. All right, we're back from the break, and we are ready to jump right into relationships. The reason why Austin is with me today, again, he is getting married in September. September the 15th is his big day. And we were just talking a couple days ago, and we were just chatting about what that looked like. And he was telling me that he was a little fearful of this day. And so that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to be unfiltered in the way you feel, and then also share some thoughts about it. So talk to us.
I'm not afraid to marry her.
Should we be clear?
Yeah. I just, I'm
glad you clarified that.
It's the planning process. It's, you're afraid you're going to miss something. Did we pack our passports? Did we book the trip? We did. I know that, but, just all of that. Mm-hmm. And then there's just the things in life that, you don't necessarily know that you're getting into. And I feel like, so we've been doing premarital counseling, and I've done personal individualized life coaching before that, and she has too. But you and I were talking the other day about just how, I feel like there's this pressure on men, in relationships, and specifically marriages, or, maybe you're engaged, whatever, you have this role to fill, and there's a biblical aspect to that, and it can be intimidating. I mean, when you really break it down, it can be intimidating overall. But I think one of the things that I find interesting is the area of finances. This is one that I think in theory it makes sense, and we've talked through some of it, her and I, but what are your thoughts on how do you guys, because everybody's situation is different, but in my situation, I would be working and she would be working, so we would have dual income. What would be some advice that you would give on how to handle good communication and execution when it comes to finances?
Well, first, let me back up a little bit. You mentioned something about how you and her are doing life coaching.
Yeah.
This is so important for anyone listening to my voice right now. We 100% support, encourage, advocate, all those things, anybody to do life coaching, especially couples that are married. You can't figure out your future if you don't work on your past. And it doesn't mean you got to focus on the past, but we all have crap that we got to deal with. And having a life coach, we call them life coaches. They are a counselor, but a lot of people look at counseling as a bad thing, like it's a last resort, you're screwed up. And so now you need counseling because you're so messed up. Well, the truth of the matter is we all are messed up, and we all have crap. And so I like to use life coaches in my life. My wife and I have been using a life coach for many years. She has her individual. It's the same coach, but she does it individually. I do it individually, and then we do it together as well. And that's what we do. And that's what we've been preaching on for the last several years. I would say at least 8 at the very least.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you're doing that. I think that's very, very important. Premarital counseling is very, very important. And these are all good first steps for you guys to be working on what some of the struggles are, just even in dating.
Yeah.
The financial topic is a good one. This is one, when I do premarital counseling, it's definitely one that comes up. It's probably the second highest rated. For the guy, it's about sex. For the girl, it's about providing. But then this one, for sure, finances, it might be third, but either way, it's high on the list. And, everybody does do it different. And here's what I would say to you. You got to do what works for you, but you definitely got to talk about it. You got to communicate what's going on. You got to work through those things. And the very first thing that everybody can and should do is get on a budget.
Yep.
You got to get on a budget. And some of you might think, well, how do I get on a budget? Well, it's pretty simple, really. You take both of your incomes and you tally up all your expenses and you figure out what's left and you decide what you can and cannot afford, and you never want to be living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
And obviously for us, Austin, our first and main priority is when we get paid, we pay our tithes off of that. That's the very first thing we do. We don't pay the mortgage payment. We don't go out and buy groceries. It's the first thing we do is we pay our tithe. That's what we do. And then we prioritize the things, mortgage, and then anything that has to do with mortgage, our car insurance, et cetera, the car payment, whatever it is, you budget that. So that's one thing. The other advice too that I like to give people is you don't ask advice for someone who sucks at finances.
Yeah.
That's good. if they're always in debt, they're living paycheck to paycheck, and they spend more money than they have, we tell people, why are you buying things you don't need with money you don't have to impress people you don't like? I believe that's a Dave Ramsey quote. It's true. So many people try to keep up with the Joneses, and guess what? We're all at various stages in life. I'm at a different stage than you are. We get to do more things because we've been around a lot longer than you have financially. So you want to find somebody that actually is good at finances, and you can have them mentor you. That's one thing. And it's the second thing. The first thing is get on a budget. Get on a budget, find somebody to mentor you. And then, of course, the third thing, and I'll kind of continue this probably into the next segment, but for my wife and I, what we do, and where a lot of people do make a mistake, is they separate their incomes to pay for certain things. So it'd be like some people, the husband says, okay, well, here's my income. I'm going to take care of the mortgage and this and that. And then the wife says, here's my income. I'm going to take care of my stuff,
right?
My student loan or my car that I have. And that right there is your first problem. If you take care of what's yours and she takes care of what's hers, then it's it's not ours.
Right.
And when you get married, what's hers is yours and what's yours is hers. And so it becomes...
You marry the debt.
You marry everything.
You marry
so it's
the good,
our
the bad.
income, it's
Right.
our bills, it's our everything. So the first thing is you can't separate it.
Okay.
In my opinion, you cannot separate those incomes in the aspect of hers and yours. You have to combine them together, and then you make a plan of how you're going to pay the bills. So what Aaron and I do, and what we've been doing for many, many, many years, is we have a checking account, and we figure up all of our necessity bills that comes out every single month that we know what we're buying. So it's insurance, it's car payment, it's house, it's electric and gas and all those things, the main things. And we take whatever that monthly dollar amount is, we add a few bucks to it. Sure. Because, some of those bills change, yeah. Electric and whatever, they change from time to time. But we deposit automatically into that, what we call a bill pay account. And out of that account, we set up an automatic pay for all those bills that come out every single month. And trust me, we don't have that many. So for us, it makes it very simple.
Right.
But we do that every single month, and that way, one, those bills are paid on time every month without us thinking about it, and we don't spend any of the money that is supposed to go to a bill. Mm. Then what we do is then we have a savings account. So we put so much into a savings account every single week, not month, but every single paycheck, X amount of dollars goes into the savings account. Lastly, I have my own personal account and she has her own personal account. And then what we do is she has a budget for the things that she does, and she gets X amount of dollars every week into that budget. And then I have a budget for my personal stuff that I want to do, and that goes into my budget. And we work off of our own budgets for those things, but together we work off of the main budget for the bills. So we have 3 different separate checking account. Well, one checking account is combined, yeah. Her and I, and then she has one of her own. I have one of my own. Of course, we have a savings combined.
Sure.
That's how we do it personally. Now, you throw in the business in there, that's a whole nother thing. We won't talk about that.
Right.
But for us personally, that's what we do. So it's like her and I, we get an allowance every week depending on what we do. And we talk about this every year in January. We refigure what our bills are, what we want to do, what we're spending our money on, and then we budget accordingly. And then we have our bills paid, we have savings, and then we have our funny money that we go do.
That's cool.
So when we come back, we got to take a break. But when we come back, we'll keep going on with these questions, and I hope you guys are enjoying it. We'll be back in just a few minutes. All right, we're back, and we were talking about money in marriage. What do we do? How do we deal with finances when it comes to marriage, especially a brand new couple getting ready to be married, just like you, Austin, you and Kinsey. And again, Dave Ramsey is a great resource. I don't 100% agree with everything Dave Ramsey says,
right.
but I do agree with probably 90% of what he agrees on.
Yeah.
But that's just my personal opinion when it comes to that. Pretty much everything he has is awesome. And we do pretty much the majority of what he says, which ultimately is trying to get out of debt so we're not living paycheck to paycheck.
Sure.
And that's exactly what your mom and I have done over the years, is make sure we are financially squared away when it comes to finances. So I hope that helps you.
Yeah, no, I really like that's the perfect answer. That's something that we had actually already kind of talked in that direction. I just wasn't really sure if it was a good idea. But I think that's helpful. And I think not only to me, but maybe to everybody else that's listening.
Here, let me say one more thing on that. What makes it really nice is you don't ever have to think about your bills getting paid or any of us spending the money that pays the bills.
Right.
It's automatic. Then on top of it, it also gives us boundaries that I don't have to care and think about what my wife is spending money on.
Right.
Because we talk about what she does. And once she gets that budget, it's her responsibility to take care of it. Mm-hmm. As long as she doesn't come asking for more money and everything's taken care of, then I don't care, and vice versa.
Right.
So that's what makes it stress-free and gives you boundaries to do the things that you want to do within the reason of how much money you got left over.
Yeah. Are these all, I know the checking and the savings are probably joint accounts. Is the other two checking accounts are they joint where you guys can transfer whatever?
No, they're not joint at all. She has hers and I have mine. The only thing we can do legally is I can deposit money in hers,
right.
but I can't go take money out and vice versa.
Right. Okay.
And there's no rhyme or reason for that other than I don't need to go take money out of her account.
Right.
I'm a beneficiary if something happens to her,
sure.
and vice versa.
Yeah.
But it's her money. I say her money. It's our money, but it's her budget.
Right. Okay.
She has a specific budget she handles. I have a specific thing, and but all the bills are paid in a combined account, which is the checking and the savings.
Yeah. Cool. No, that's awesome. That's really helpful. Okay, so something else that we were talking about a couple days ago was, the responsibility of the man, of the husband, and what God has called us to do. And this kind of brought up, I think every guy in every relationship since the dawn of man can feel sometimes like they are the ones who always needs to change. Mm-hmm. This is something that's come up in my relationship, and not in a bad way, but just there is always this expectation to change and to be better. And 90% of it, I would say, is warranted. I think though there's always going to be that margin where men, specifically men, because I can only speak from a man's experience, feels like it's always on them to change.
Yeah.
And we find ourselves in these situations where it's like, okay, well, is there nothing that you can do to change? You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, you love your wife no matter what. But it's one of those things. Getting into a marriage, though, what would be your advice? Being married for 27 years, you've obviously, you've had your ups, you've had your downs, you've had, all of the in between. What are some things that you would advise on that? Is that something that makes sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And listen, I'll be the first to admit it. I don't have it all figured out.
Yeah.
27 years, I do not. I'm still learning. A matter of fact, because we have talked about this a few days ago, I had God give me a revelation a couple months ago, specifically on what you're talking about. That's why it got brought up.
Yeah.
I think for guys, yes, we do have a lot of pressure on ourselves that a lot of women don't understand, because God gave us this role and this responsibility to manage, take care of, protect, lead the family, especially our wives. And there are times when, you get in these discussions with your spouse of things that both of us need to do differently. There's things I need to change in. There's things she needs to change in. The problem is, because we are naturally selfish beings, what happens is we say this: well, when you change what I need, then I'll change.
Right.
Then I say, that's what she's telling me. And then I say, well, when you change what I need, then I'll change. And so what we're doing is we're waiting for each other to change. And so we become stagnant because we're selfish and prideful and don't want to change until the other person's changed. And I can tell you right now, if anyone has that mentality, you'll be stuck in your marriage for years and years and years until you figure it out. And what God showed me a couple months ago is, one, I am the stronger vessel. The Bible talks about this. Ladies, this is no knock on you at all. It's just the truth of God's word is the women are the weaker vessel. They're more emotional. They're more drama. They're more, I don't know what other words I can use. I don't want to tear a woman down because they're amazing and God gifted them. And you're going to see in a minute what I'm talking about. But at the end of the day, the men are the ones that are stronger and have the ability with God to be able to do things that we can't even comprehend. And that is, our role as a guy is to make sure we do change. That sometimes we are the catalyst for these women to change because we're doing what God has called us to do. And what came to mind is the fact of communication. Is the number one thing us men need to be better at is communication. Now, most of you out there are thinking, well, I do pretty good. Can you stop by the store and pick up a loaf of bread? That's communication. Or, hey, we're having dinner with the Smiths, tomorrow night or Friday night. That is a form of communication, but that's not the form of communication I'm talking about. As a matter of fact, I'm going to read to you because Ephesians actually gives us the framework, men. It gives us the framework of how we are supposed to love our wives. And I'm not kidding you. It just became so clear to me recently in Ephesians 5:25. Let me read it to you. It says, husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with the water through the word, and to present to himself as a radiant church without a stain or wrinkle or any blemish, but holy and blameless. Now, you might read that and think, wow, that's a little confusing because I read a lot of stuff, but the part that stood out to me the most that I just got a revelation on was the part that says, to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with the word, or with the water through the word. And it's a picture, it's a word picture of what Jesus does for the church. We are his bride. The church is his bride. Right. What does he do for the church? He washes them. He cleanses them with his word by telling us how much he loves us, by showing his love. Not only telling, but he shows us his love through the promises that he has, through even the hard conversations that we got to have. And so that's what he wants us to do with our spouses, is he says, what I want you to do is I want you to, because really what it is, it's a word picture of God's ongoing communicative strategy with those who he loves. And that's what he wants for us to do, is he wants us to lead our wives the best way that we can, and that is through our words, the things that we do. So what the cleansing of our words is words of affirmation, that we encourage our wives. We say things that show love to our wives. We have words of clarity, words of encouragement. That is what healthy communication is. And so when I think about that for men, because most men, they get fearful because they're sitting there wondering of, well, if I start doing all these things and I start bending and I start doing all the things that she wants me to do, now I'm going to be wrapped around her finger and she's going to control me. That's a fear. But if we do what God's word says and we do it God's way because we know his way is better, it won't end up like that. She'll end up loving you even more, doing the things that you want her to do because you are the person that God chose to go first. It's your job as a man to say sorry first. It's your job as a man to go to your spouse and talk to her about a problem first. It's your job as a man to go and be the change first. Don't wait for your spouse to change. We need to change first. And that is tough and difficult because when you're not getting what you want from the relationship, the very natural thing we do is back away.
Right.
We isolate and we say things like, well, I'm not going to do this because that's what she wants until she starts doing this. And then all of a sudden you both are moving away from each other instead of moving closer together.
Yeah. Withholding quality time,
Absolutely.
all of those things.
Because most men, all they want in the very first thing is they want to look in Ephesians and see where it says that wives are supposed to submit to the husband.
Right.
Well, you have to go back a little bit further than that, and it actually says that we are to submit to one another, which is completely different, men. You want your wife to submit to you, then communicate with her through the cleansing of your words, encouraging her, making sure you're doing whatever you have to do to make her better. What can you do to make her better? Not what can you do to show people that she's failed and you're going to let her fail. No, what can you do to protect her from what she looks like, what could happen, and the encouragement when things aren't going well, you go to her and you let her know, hey, it's okay. We will get through this together. You're better than that. I love when you do this. I love how you said that. Whether it's with your kids, which is another huge one, obviously, which you don't have kids yet.
Nope. Not for a while.
Right now, your focus is just to make your wife feel loved by not only what you say, but by what you actually do.
Yeah.
And trust me, it's not easy.
No.
I mean, it is absolutely not easy, but I'm going to tell you, I've been doing this for the last, this whole thing just came to me because, listen, if I'm being real, there's times when my wife doesn't want to change or is waiting for me to change so she can do something, and it frustrates me because it's like, wait a minute, we both need to focus on our stuff, quit waiting on me to do all the changing. But then God showed me and he spoke to me, said, listen, I chose you to be the one. You're the man. You're the stronger person between the two. It's your role, your responsibility, your mandate to change first. And when you do that, guess what? A leader leads and people follow the lead. Yeah. So when you do what you're supposed to do, they'll follow you and do what they're supposed to do.
Oh, that's good.
So, and so I've been doing that over the last couple months. And so here's one more little tip. And my wife doesn't know all this, so hopefully she's not listening because I started doing this, but I think it's because God told me this is what I need to do, and that is this. When we get into an argument about anything, and I don't feel comfortable, right? I don't feel validated. I don't feel heard. I may have been dismissed, whatever the verbiage is. What I say to myself is, I'm not going to let that jack up my relationship with my wife. So I'm still going to love her and show her love, even though I don't feel good. And the way I do that now is I communicate with her, hey, even though I'm not good, I need you to know that I am still going to respect you. I'm still going to love you. I'm still going to show affection. And when I say affection, men, I'm talking outside of the bedroom affection, whether it's a touch, a kiss, a
intimacy.
Hug. Yeah, and so I'm still going to do that. I'm not going to treat you rudely. I'm not going to show that I'm angry at you. I'm going to do what God's word says. But I need you to know I'm not good. And what that says, I believe to her is, you know what? He's still going to love me the way I'm supposed to. And I need to figure out what I can do to make him feel whatever it is he's feeling.
Yep.
And it works.
It
works. So, I mean, listen, I could talk about this for hours. And all I'm trying to do is just give you and anybody listening some hope out there. And it's not easy.
No. I appreciate it.
But we have to be the ones to lead these ladies in the way God tells us to. So let's take another break. When we come back, I'll answer whatever other question you may have. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you back here in just a minute. Well, now we are back, and we just came out of a pretty heavy discussion about what men are mandated to do by God in Ephesians 5:25 of how we are to love our wives, and we are to cleanse her by the washing with the water through the word, which is a word picture that we wash her, cleanse her with our words, which is affirmation, it's love, it's clarity, it's understanding, it's validation, all these different things. But in that, I do want to say something because I think it's really important for the ladies to hear a little something about us guys. Ladies, you may not understand this at all, but I believe for the majority of the husbands out there, I absolutely believe that you ladies have the most the voice that is most likely the most influential voice in your husband's life, more than his mom, which is always a big one for a lot of guys, his boss, his friends, his coworkers, whatever it is. Your voice, ladies, is shaping him, and he's becoming he's becoming what you are speaking into him. And so even though that guy, your husband, your fiance, he may act tough and strong, like he's got everything figured out, let me tell you something. Most men still have a scared feeling deep down inside. Listen, I'm a strong person. I'm a strong personality. I'm very confident. A lot of people look at my confidence as being cocky. That's not the truth. The truth is I'm just a very confident person. I've had to learn to be confident in myself without having affirmation. But the reality is even somebody like myself who's very strong and confident, there are still real feelings deep down inside of me from time to time that make me scared of, am I really the person that can do this? So I ask myself, am I really good enough to be the husband I'm supposed to be? Am I really good enough dad? Am I really a good enough pastor? Am I really a good enough business owner? Am I really good enough to be a leader? Those things are real for me. Do I really have what it takes to do this?
Sure.
Those are questions that I have from time to time that actually scare me because I feel like times that I'm not good enough. I feel like times that I don't have what it takes. But wives, can I tell you something? Your husbands need you. God has uniquely designed you to be the partner that he needs. So what I'm telling you is that you need to speak life into him. You need to encourage him. Let him know that he does have what it takes. Tell him that he is good enough because your voice matters more than you realize. The words of a woman, of a spouse, my wife, when she speaks life into me, compliments me, encourages me, holy smokes, man, I feel like I'm a superhero in that moment. That no matter what comes my direction, I can accomplish anything. That is the power of a virtuous woman. And if you want to know more about a virtuous woman, just read Proverbs 31, ladies. It'll tell you all you need to know about how you have tremendous influence on your husband's life. So I wanted to throw that out there as some encouragement.
That's cool. Because I think sometimes we do know that in our mind, we know that that's what we need, but we don't vocalize it all the time. And
I'll tell you what I'll do.
It's risky.
I'll do 2 videos. I'll do 2 videos next week, and I'll do one that what I just talked about for the husbands, and I'll make it a little short reel, and I'll do one for the women, and I'll kind of recap what we just talked about in 2 short reels, so that way people will have it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Cool. Well, no, this has been good. I think one of the other things is, with us getting married, obviously this changes a lot of how holidays look. This is one of the biggest things. I mean, we come from a very I specifically come from a very tight-knit family. Not only like me, you, mom, Dawson and Zoe, but also like our extended immediate family as well. Like we're all very close. Well, her family, her immediate family and extended immediate family are all very close. And so this brings up holidays, and I've heard this before where it's the 2 people coming together to create their own family. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, reality is you still have your families, and you get into their families. But how do you balance creating your own family unit, your own traditions, your own things of importance, all of those things between the 2 of you, and then however many kids you end up having, if any, and also not placating, but also because we want to, participating
Right.
in, Christmases, Thanksgivings, Easters, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and trust me, it's tough. It's tough. Oh my goodness,
This one is probably the scariest one for me. Not even the finances or anything else.
It is really hard to manage what you two want as a couple, and then also manage what your families are expecting.
Yeah.
I will tell you that your mom and I, we made a decision years ago. I mean, we're talking 25 years ago, a couple years after we got married, we made a decision that we were never going to pressure our kids into making them feel guilty about coming, one, to a family function or Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, whatever it is. We just were not going to force the issue. So what we did is we said, hey, you know what? All we want is to make sure we're all together for Christmas. That's probably our biggest one.
Yeah.
It don't have to be on Christmas. It just needs to be around Christmas to where everybody can be at our house on Christmas to celebrate what Christmas is about. And that's what we did. So if like, for instance, your sister who's married and she goes to his side of the family, you're going to her side of the family, your fiance, your future wife's side of the family. Then what we do is we say, hey, okay, no problem. You guys do that. And then, but let's pick a weekend where we can all get together, whether it's before Christmas or after Christmas. And then for us, we just alternate families for Thanksgiving. So one year it's with my mom's side of the family. And then one year it's with Aaron's side of the family. And wherever they go is where we go. Okay. We're very, very flexible when it comes to Thanksgiving. If everybody's in the same community, that live right in the same community, because we don't have family like that. Our families are all out of state, so it looks a little different. But if, except for my mom is here and her mom is here, but for Christmas, we don't go on the same day to those. Yeah. We do the same thing. We've talked to them and said, let's have our own Gaszak Christmas and our own Keith Christmas. And that way it's separate. And then like you said, your mom and I have our own Christmas with our kids. And so when your kids are younger, it's very, very important, Austin, that you and Kinsey, when you have kids, that you have your own Christmas at your house with just your kids. If you choose, the two of you agree to go to our house and to her house on the same day, that's your choice. I don't like that because it takes a lot of time to do
exhausting.
It is exhausting.
Let's be honest.
So you do have to kind of, talk with your spouse about it and figure out what's going to be most important and how you figure that out. But for your mom and I, the one thing, if you're a parent out there, I would really encourage you not to put that stress on your kids. Yeah. I want my kids to want to be at my house. I don't want them to feel forced. And here's the deal. You know what? My wife and I are at a place we're empty nesters. And so if there's a Christmas where all of our kids are gone to their spouse's house, guess what my wife and I are doing? We're going to Hawaii. We're going to Mexico. We're going to Europe. We're going to find a place that her and I can go and enjoy ourselves together because we have that kind of a relationship.
Yeah.
And the problem is most married couples, not most, let's say a lot of married couples don't have that kind of relationship. And that's why they got to be around family. They don't want to be stuck by themselves because they just sit there, stare and look at each other. Yeah. Your mom and I aren't like that. Yeah. We can travel and vacate, go on vacations anywhere together and enjoy our time together because that's the culture we built in our home.
That's good.
But at the same time, it's not easy managing the holidays when it comes to families.
No, but that puts a little bit of more perspective into it. I mean, we've talked about some of this, but really and I think when you have kids involved, that's to me a no-brainer.
It gets trickier.
It gets trickier, but like that to me is a no-brainer. Christmas morning, we're staying home and we're doing that with the kid like that. Then whatever's left, we can figure that out. But right now it's just her and I.
Right.
So we are a little bit more flexible.
Sure.
And I don't mind running around a little bit more right now because it's just us two.
Right.
And so, but that's a good.
The biggest thing is communicate with it. Come to a win-win agreement.
Yeah.
Not a win-lose. If you win, she loses.
Yeah.
If she wins, you lose. It has to be a win-win for both of you. That way, both people win. So I know we don't have a lot of time. I literally have less than a minute. It goes super fast when you talk about fun subjects like this to really help and encourage people the best we can. I want to say this. One, I'm excited about you getting married. I think you have a great, God has given you a great spouse and vice versa. And here's what I would say to everybody out there. God has designed marriage a specific way. He has literally told men what they're supposed to do. He has told women what they're supposed to do in their roles. This comes with kids, everything. So if you have these priorities in line, things will work out for you. You will have struggles, right? Everybody has struggles, but it will work out when we do it God's way. That priority is God first for each of you in your own lives, and then together as a couple, God has to be first. Second is your spouse. You put each other second, then your kids, then your job. That's what you got to do. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of time. I hope all this information helped you. I will see you next weekend at 8 a.m. on Saturday, and then the rebroadcast on Sunday at 8 a.m. Thanks a lot. Peace.